All right. So we are live today with this very special guest who took time out of his busy schedule to come on our show today. And I'm also proud to say that he is my brother in law, and his name is Eric Buckson. He's a senator, a state senator in Delaware. And I'm going to let him say what district he's in because I get a little crazy with districts. So, Eric, have at it.
Well, hey Tiff, thanks for having me on. The district that I represent, there's 21 districts in the state of Delaware. You know, it's a small state, um, and the district that I represent is in the middle of the state. Some folks might be familiar with it because it includes the Dover Air Force Base, which is a U.S. Air Force base, and it also um, gets a little bit of the Dover Downs, which is the NASCAR facility. We're probably, I don't know, 20 miles from Lewis Beach, the end of my district is. So if you're familiar with Lewis and Rehoboth, we're a little north of that. So there you go.
Okay, I have to keep mute myself because I got the baby in here.
That's right.
So the other day, you and I were on the phone, and you know that I'm the Constitution girl. You already know. You know me a very long time.
Hmm.
And I try to stress to parents, especially, and guardians and kinship people, whatever the case may be, how important it is to use the Constitution, because people don't understand um, that the Constitution is the superior law of the land. It is where our laws come from. And I've had people come back and tell me, and you've talked to Wicked, that they're being told in family court that they do not have constitutional rights when it comes to CPS. CPS director herself told me that parents have no rights. Of course, you know, she can't do that for me. Um, and and judges are also telling people that the United States Supreme Court does not run their courtrooms, right? So I too believe that we need to get back to the Constitution, and you know the Constitution too. So I want you to elaborate on how this all should be playing out, especially with citizens.
Sure. Well, you said a lot, right? And for anyone who listens or hears this, I am like most Americans. I believe in the Constitution. However, there's a difference between believing it, having an appreciation, a general understanding of it, and those folks that are experts, whether they're legal experts or just folks that profess to study it a lot. So I'm not there. I am very familiar with it, the 27 of them that are amendments and the Constitution itself and all of those things. And they're vitally important because what do they do? I think as most folks generally appreciate them, they're kind of the compass. They're the guardrails. They're the things that allow what you mentioned, which is a courtroom, to maintain its consistency of the law of the land. Now, as you already know, there's state laws, and then there's there's a Delaware Constitution, and then there's a U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution trumps it, but inside of that Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, is a recognition that each individual state, within reason, can carry or control their own set of laws. Right? Something legal in the state of Maryland may be illegal in the state of Delaware. So I guess when I heard you say something along the lines, and we chatted briefly before we got started, was in a family court in a specific state. Um, Maybe their feeling is that the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't control their decisions. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that's fair or true because the Supreme Courts are where you appeal decisions, right? So it's whether you appeal the constitutionality of a law or a decision made inside of a court. I can only guess that's what they're arguing, but again, I'm no lawyer, so feel free to coach me up a little more.
That's okay.
Hmm.
So what happens is, right, and I tell people, not only do they need to know the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, they need to
Mhm.
know their own state's constitution
Mhm.
and their own state's, like Virginia doesn't call it the Bill of Rights, it's called the Declaration of Rights.
Mhm.
But as far as the Supreme Court goes, and I only know this because I work with a law school here in Virginia, and I asked
Mhm.
the same question. And she said, the United States Supreme Court sets the precedents for the lower courts.
Mhm.
And when cases have already been decided in federal and the Supreme Court, they are stare decisis, which means let the
Mhm.
ruling stand. So, one of the problems that we're having, and this is not just a state thing, it's a United States problem, is that judges who took an oath to protect the Constitution, they're not doing it because they know that they're not there to people. Wait a minute, let me rephrase that. Judges are supposed to be there to protect the rights of the citizens, okay? And the Constitution. That's why they can't teach practice law. They can't tell you certain things or whatever. But they're
Mhm.
not doing it. What they're doing is they're being very biased to one side. And the side that they're being biased on is the side where the state is going to get the money.
Mhm.
Because anytime a child is taken out of the home, they write this little grant up, submit it to the federal government, and the government gives them X amount of money. So, what we as advocates are trying to do, and I'm telling you this because I want you to have your researcher research for you.
Mhm.
Um, how much money the state is making instead of putting children in kinship because there is no money in kinship. How much money the state is making off each of these children that they're taking out of the home, when
Mhm.
in fact they should actually be using that same money to help keep the child in the home. Does that make sense?
Mhm. So, let me ask you a couple things. So, help coach me up on your expertise. So, I have
Mhm.
some general knowledge of what you're talking about, but coach me up.
Okay.
So, right now, we have kinship, guardianship, foster care, all those things. All right, kinship versus foster care. What's the difference?
Kinship, no
Hmm.
money. Foster
Hmm.
care, money,
Hmm.
money, money. That's
What's the
the
difference
difference
between? And that's money, money, money. State bringing in funds to help
from the federal
foster those
government.
programs. Right. So is kinship in line with? So guardianship is separate, obviously, from foster care because guardianship lines up more with kinship. But
Hmm.
guardianship can be it can be somebody outside the family nucleus. Is that what you're describing? That the family nucleus is a relative, bloodborne type thing?
Well, it could be a fictive
Mhm.
kin,
Yeah,
like because I have a relationship with
gotcha.
Joe Blow's kid down the street, I could take the child,
Hmm.
but they won't give me any money for it
Hmm. Hmm.
because now it's not going into a home that the state has.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yes.
And
Um,
federal law states children are to be placed with kin or fictive kin before they are placed in a foster home. But they don't do that. They will deny everybody, everybody, doesn't matter what for, except here in Virginia, because I worked with a delegate a couple years ago, and she actually changed the law that said if CPS comes in and can take the child and CPS denies the kinship, they have to then go in front of the board of supervisors, and it has to be an extremely good reason why that child is not placed with kin. Now that was a law that I got changed here.
okay.
And that's what we're trying to do all across the nation.
So I ask these things because what I try to do is if I think I know what I'm talking about, I get it kind of confirmed. by restating the question to see if what I was thinking was accurate. So it is, and I get that. Um, it's unique. It's interesting we're having this conversation because whether you're aware of it or not, but this time last year, I sponsored a Senate, a joint resolution. So basically, it's both the House and Senate joint resolution directing our Child Protective Services to do a study on why it is that we're not participating in what's called the federal GAP program, which you're probably familiar with it, I guess. But it's
No.
basic. So the technical thing is Title 4-E, but it's a guardianship assistance program, which is GAP, right? And essentially what it states is that the federal government has funding for what's essentially a GAP program, and the state of Delaware is not participating in it. We're one of, I'll just generalize because it's probably 10 states that are not participating in it in some form or fashion. And what was happening is you had individuals who were kind of in a reverse role. The state was allowing the caretaker, the kin, to keep the child in the home, but they weren't providing support. So for an 8-year-old joining Little League, which is $150, it was on the grandmother or the sister of the person that could no longer have the child to come up with those funds or new sneakers or something like that. Sure, there's WIC. Yes, there are food subsidies of sorts, but there's not that full complement of funding. And so what I did was I passed this resolution, and the state asked for a year to look into it. They just gave the report to me a couple weeks ago. And basically they killed the program by talking about the regulatory process and the challenges with implementing the process and the limited amount of benefit you would have by implementing the regulations. We come back from break in about a week. And when we do, I plan on bringing them in because in my take in this situation, you regulated it into oblivion. You basically gave me every reason why we can't participate in the program to help support the grandparents that have taken 2 children in, or the cousin who's brought the kids in, or heck, the close family tie, and not better support them with some money that's out there. That's the key. The money's out there. So anyway, I don't know. It might be something I can send you. You can look at it. So I know it's the opposite, right? Because I think what you just told me is that yours is more like they don't want to place the child with the kin. So it's interesting.
Well, part of the reason that they don't want that program is because you're taking money from them.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I would love to be in that meeting with you and these people because I understand exactly what they're doing. Right. Just like, I have custody of 2 of my grandkids. I get zero from them.
Yeah.
Now, hey, Eric, I just want to jump in here for a minute. I'm looking right now.
Yes.
Okay. Virginia does not participate.
There you go.
North Carolina, South Carolina do not participate.
Yeah.
Okay. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia do not participate in this. And these are one of your biggest states.
Yeah.
Again, they don't even abide by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
Larry, Eric, I'll be right back. Continue the conversation. See, Eric? See, I told you.
No, I said, you're right. I'm with you. So they don't abide by it. I heard that, and then you stop.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now. Exactly what you were saying, because I had never heard of it until you just said something. So, Title 4E, Guardianship Assistance Program. And here's the update on it. In the following states, I just sent it to Tiffany so she could send it to you. The following states that I just named do not participate. Why is that?
Well, Delaware is one of them. We don't participate in it in the manner of which we should. So if it's not in there, Delaware is one of them because
Delaware's another one.
Yeah, Delaware's not in there.
No.
And I'll send you the review. Our department, DSCYF, which is the Department of Services for Children, Youth, and Families, they spent 6 months explaining to me and the Senate, because I was the one that requested a report on. Here's the report. The report was to bring back a report to say why we are going to join it and how we're going to join it, which would be rather simple, or why we're not. And I explained to them, if we're not going to, there better be a real good explanation. So they sent me and the Senate probably 7 pages, fairly detailed, kind of killing the program. And but we're on break right now, so I didn't want to bother them right now. I'm going to come back in next week when we come back and explain and have them better explain to me why we're that smart, that we're one of like only 10 that don't participate. The rest of the country does. Here's what they're going to say. They're going to say that there's some technical aspects within the bill that kind of don't make it as easy as it should be. But as we were talking a minute ago, the states are somewhat in control of our regulations. We can modify our regulations to participate in the federal program. You see, but I don't know if they want to do it. They see it. Here's what they said. We have other services we can provide. The state of Delaware already has services. We don't need this one. My argument back to them is, then tell me why I get a parent telling me that they've got to come out of pocket when they're doing the service. They're doing the state of service. They're keeping the child out of foster care. They're keeping the child within relative speaking, the family. But we're not supporting them. And look, I'm not even asking the state to step in with state dollars. I need state services, but I don't need state dollars. I need the state just to participate in the federal funding.
Because they're lining their pockets. It's just like with child support.
Right.
Okay.
Must be. There's something going on. Give me I'll tell you what, come back here. Where is it? I want to send it to you. I'll send it to you in download. I can send it to you in an email if you want.
Yeah, get it, Tiff.
He's
got your email.
24 Tiffany at 24 TIFFINI.
I'll be right back.
INI.
Yep.
At Gmail.
So it's 24Tiffany at gmail.com.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to send this to you. You can check it out. And
I'll tell you something else that might help you. The federal government has now said that CPS can no longer use TANF, which is federal money, to investigate families. And as soon as I find that article, I will send it to you. That might be able to help you with your questioning of these people too.
Okay. Well, you got it. You got it now. What I just sent you was just the official report. It's not technically it has been made public to the other legislators, so it's not right. Privileged. But I haven't had a chance to get a hold of the department yet. I haven't wanted to yet. I want to wait till we get off break.
No, that's fine. Also, we're trying to get a parental rights bill here, sort of like a Miranda rights bill. The only 2 states that have done that so far, one is New York and one is Texas. So what they have said was that if CPS shows up at your door, they have to, 1, tell you what your rights are, right? Which is your 1st, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments. And then they have to tell you by mouth. And then 2 weeks later, they have to send you a copy of what your rights are. So Texas and New York is doing that too. We're working on one here in Virginia. I don't know if you guys are working on one or not. I don't know.
A parental rights bill?
Yes.
Yeah, so the problem is it's way more than that, right? So the parental rights bill you have speaks You're talking about when they show up at the doorstep to do an investigation. Parental rights might be the right to know what's going on in school, which is real sexy right now and popular to talk about. So you talking about everything? Is that what the bill is you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I have a competing bill that, you know, what my rights are, and this is where you decide where you are on. It's up to you. But I think that the right of the parent to know what's going on when they turn their child over to a school system or medical provider or whatever, their right to know should be absolute up to a certain point. You know, the child becomes 18, they're no longer a child. That's a different animal. But I'm not sending my child to, to middle school and having that school keep secrets from me. I just
Right.
think that's unacceptable. But that's what we're talking about here now. There's no hardened line. So now you've got all these wellness centers that are making these decisions for parents, and that's not healthy, in my
Right.
opinion.
Well, and that's true. And our governor, Governor Youngkin, has made it very clear that the parental rights are held by the parents. The control, custody, discipline, and education is up to the parent, not the school and not an agency.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, argue that argument in family court.
Yeah.
And let me know how that works out for you.
Well, I do argue those points, right?
So
Because I don't know if Jennifer ever told you, but I had a judge say, "You will cooperate, Miss Wise. You will." I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No, I'm not." We go back to court and CPS was like, "Miss Wise didn't cooperate." And I said, "And I told you I wasn't going to cooperate." And she went to say something else. I was so mad. I was crying. I said, "Don't make me leave your courtroom, Your Honor, and go call a civil rights attorney." She dropped my whole case because parents are being forced into this, right? And I know you are big, big, big on education. So I got a question after you show me what you got.
Oh, this is nothing. This me just being nervous. Not nervous, but I always bite my nails or chew something. So this is
Oh,
it.
that's all right. So
Yeah.
let me ask you, school board members, I don't know if they are in Delaware, but here they're elected. Are they elected there too?
Yes.
Okay. What do you do if you have a school board member who was elected, who got a DWI, and now has been charged with the insurrection in DC on January 6th and refuses to step down? What do you do? He told parents, "Do as I say, not as I do."
So as you mentioned, there's a process, and somewhere in there, the regulatory authority for that board to exist is a process for the removal of, whether it's by referendum, whether it's by petition that leads to a referendum, or more specifically, typically in that situation where it's the other board members making a motion that follows whatever the legislative process is. See, that's the key for me. So while my emotion might say get him out of there, that's not relevant. What is the process for it? What is the measure for it? And look, if it's left up to the school board and it's solely within their rights to make that decision and they're choosing not to, well, then you have an election. It might be a year from now, but you'll have an election, and you by the will of your vote and your activism, you get rid of those that are in charge. I mean, that has to be the way it works. You have, like you said, it has to stay within rules, whether it's the U.S. Constitution or whether it's the documents that give life to a board.
Right.
You know?
See, I'm all about accountability, right? I mean, I even told our prosecutor when I had a meeting with him, I said, "Look, I'm all about people being held accountable for their actions. But the problem is we have a two-way system here. They want citizens to be held accountable, but when people are elected or they're official, whatever it is, there's no accountability because you can't get anywhere, right? Unless you literally sue them in a federal courthouse."
To the elected people?
Anybody that's not a quote unquote regular citizen. There's no accountability anywhere.
So
I
in
think
other words, Eric,
yeah.
I can have a DSS worker blatantly lie. Know it's a lie. Prove that it's a lie. Commit perjury on the stand, and there's no accountability.
And I think that's our biggest frustration, right? How do we make these people accountable? We don't want to keep flooding the courts because the courts are going to be like, these people are crazy.
So, the challenge is, as that was just as Wicked just described it. I haven't experienced that. I haven't seen that. I've heard it. You've said it, and I have to give you credit and respect for that. But I would have to know more. I'd have to have a better understanding because here's the problem I have. That's what you describe, and as you describe it, at least here in Delaware, I don't see that on a consistent basis. I would argue, though, at any point in time, it shouldn't be prevalent. It shouldn't happen. But the way you describe it, it's not just happened in your one situation. It's happened routinely.
Eric,
It's a
I give you a
routine.
better one. Google the DA from PA, the next state over from you, where CPS lied to take their children and drug this man through the mud and almost costed him the election.
And he won.
And he
And he
won.
sued him.
Right.
Okay, State versus Nicholson out of New York. The biggest lawsuit ever against DSS. New York Supreme Court ruled you cannot take a child from a mother, a father for domestic violence. They're doing it every day, all the way across the board. And then they back it up with a falsified drug test. And I can send you proof of what I'm telling you.
Eric, have you ever gone to a dependency hearing?
A dependency hearing. So describe it and I'll tell you yes or no. I doubt it. But
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it looks like family court.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to family court and
Yeah.
it's a bunch of CPS workers and foster care workers and a parent. Hold on.
Wicked, have you been to those?
Oh, yeah, I've been through it.
Yeah. So
Hold on.
If
And
you
it's
read
a
my
parent.
transcript-
Hold on, Larry. Hold on, Larry. And
I was
it's a
gonna have
parent or
Yeah.
parents with
Yeah.
a lawyer who
Right.
works for the state first and then their client who will
Right.
not stand up to a judge and say these allegations are false. That is dependency court. They believe what CPS tells them. I think you should send some undercovers in there in your district and watch how these judges perform. I can't do it because they all know me here.
Listen, Eric, I will email you my transcripts, and it's funnier than an episode of Sanford and Son because I represented myself.
Right on.
I paid a lawyer almost $10,000 to represent my ex, and guess what? I'm the one who got my kids back, and Tiffany will tell you, it wasn't the lawyer. I fought these people nail and tooth. Why? Because I wouldn't sign their contract. And I stood on the Constitution. And
Right.
this lady to this day hates my guts because I stood on the Constitution.
Right.
But I know the Constitution. Okay, this is in the same county where the first Ku Klux Klan museum anywhere in the country was put. Lawrence County, South Carolina. It's unbelievable. It's a 3-ring circus down there. Talk about kangaroo court.
And that's what it's called because it is such a joke. If you want to get to the nitty gritty for your bill, you need to send a spy in there. And
Well,
you
thanks,
need to
Tiff.
see.
You told the whole world to tell the man to send it undercover. But no.
I don't know who he's sending in there, Larry.
Talk to some parents in your district.
Yeah. And I'll tell you who to go to because I'll send you the information I have. And 66%, this is a lot, are Black children.
Mm-hmm.
It's a national, they did a national thing. 66% of children removed out of the home are Black. That includes biracial because it just does. So I think, I mean, because I can help you with that, with your little bill. I can sock it to them for you.
Listen, Eric, all you got to do, and it'll sound far-fetched to what these people are telling you, and you'll be like, you'll walk away going, no way.
Yeah.
No way. Absolutely not.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, just listen to them, and you can't make this shit up. You cannot make this up. There's the lady, I think it's on Hulu, Children of the Underground. You got to watch this. It was an underground railroad coming out of North Carolina and South Carolina, helping mothers to get away from DSS. Not the abuser, because family court is more of an abuser than the abuser. The victim has already been victimized once. Now they're being victimized again, coerced. I had a DSS lawyer call me up and tell me I was going to take an Alford plea. Well, guess what? Anything with the word plea in it, I ain't taking if I'm innocent. So she says, I'll just put you on the stand. Really? Well, I'll just plead the fifth. Oh, you can't plead the fifth in my courtroom. You know what? This conversation's over. So now we get before the judge. He says, I've heard from everybody but you today. Larry, do you have anything to say? Yup, sure do. I said, didn't you tell me in my initial hearing with you to shut my mouth because anything I say could be used against me at a later date? He says, well, I didn't tell you to shut your mouth, but I told you to invoke your Fifth Amendment right. I says, well, you want to tell me why this DSS attorney just told me that I don't have no rights in her courtroom? Your Honor, he missed that. Shut up, you're lying, and I'm talking. And I'll send you the transcripts.
So, Eric, do you think the Constitution should be put back into the schools? And do you believe that children should be learning the Constitution?
Yes, the Constitution as it's written in black and white, with less kind of malleable, kind of all over the place from the person who's teaching it, and more just textual, factual.
Right.
That's the problem. It's already taught. It clearly is taught in our schools. However, it's not taught at the level of importance that it should be now. It's just a part of it.
Right.
It's a part of what's, part of their process. So, yeah, you're asking me that question. Sure. I think that, my mailers, everything that I said, when I put them out there, ran for office, I said 3 things on it. I didn't have 30 things. I just said I am pro Constitution, pro guns, and pro God. Period.
I like this guy already.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
all I had.
And you're right. They teach parts of the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
But they don't teach the most important part of the Constitution, which is the first 10 amendments and the 14th.
Yeah.
But
right.
They will teach them that if mommy or daddy does something wrong, you call the police or you call DSS or you tell your teacher. Now they'll teach them that and drill that in their head.
Yeah.
Right.
But they won't teach them their civil rights if they're being violated by the teacher or someone in the community or someone of authority. They won't teach them that.
Right.
I think besides the Constitution, they should learn to read cursive.
Yeah, Eric, why did they take cursive writing out of schools? That makes no sense to me.
So honestly, there was a push maybe 15 years ago, 14 years ago, this belief that our students were falling behind global education. The problem with that is they got that studying tests comparing us to other countries, and our educational classroom was wildly different. We teach everybody. We don't exclude. You don't drop off. Everyone is given equal opportunities versus other parts of the world that are testing in ninth grade and in 11th grade that are testing way far above us. Well, the challenge with that is that they're not testing their entire student populations, and they're not testing everybody. And everybody that they are testing is from this very specific set group of students. They all have two-parent homes. They all look the same, and not very little special needs, special education, very little in the way of poverty. So anyway, what did we do? We ignored the fact that our classrooms are unique compared to theirs, and we tried to then apply what it is they do, right? So what they did all this fancy new way of learning. Well, not really. They were advanced because they were testing the best kids. So they
Right.
took cursive out. They said, in the global world, writing is not going to be as important as typing. And you're going to have spell check, and you don't even need to learn your signature because it's going to be electronic. And now what they found 10, 12 years later is that was a mistake. So they're trying to put it back in. They're putting it back in as best they can.
Good.
Whether it's cursive, something as simple as cursive, or how you add and the way you're taught to read. They got away from all that stuff, and now they're putting it back in because they realize it was a mistake.
Yeah, because when my daughter said, "Mom, you do know your oldest grandsons aren't learning cursive," I said, "What are you talking about?
Yeah.
How are?"
Mhm.
Because still to this day it says print your name and your
Yeah.
signature. Well, if
Yeah.
they don't know how to sign their name, they're just going to print it again.
Yeah. Sure. If you think about the way our children are taught now to learn, it's all technology. And the problem with technology is, technology is basically a cheat sheet. It does it all for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you might be exceptionally intelligent through a keyboard, but common sense stuff you're not very good at.
Right.
And common
Right.
sense is something like writing a paragraph in cursive, or doing, long division, or, reading a ruler. All those things. They say, well, there's not really necessary for you now because we have electronic rulers, and yeah, but you're dumbing down things. Now you've got
Right.
somebody doesn't have common sense. So,
Right. And we need more common sense in this world.
You
well,
think?
if you think about it, and it's the argument that I'm making fun of those folks, is really, what does it mean? What do you need to be a productive member of society? You need to be very good at the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can decide what level of expertise you are, because not all expertise needs to be in the academic world.
Mm-hmm.
You have very successful individuals that left school in ninth grade. Now, I'm not advocating for all kids to leave school in ninth grade. What I'm saying is, because some kids dropped out of school and entered into criminal activity, that means that anybody that drops out of school or stops education in 10th grade is deemed a failure. And that's bullcrap. That's nuts. Or basically, let's make it a little more palatable. Anybody that simply graduates from high school with a basic level of high school education is not successful. They have to graduate with all these extra credits and classes that deemed are the smart people classes. Well, maybe they are. Maybe if you want to be a doctor, that's a good idea. But I know a lot of construction folks, welders and plumbers that are making a lot of money that didn't need the quote smart people classes to be smart.
Right.
That's the problem, So
Um,
you got people working. Yeah, I don't care. Suppose you have a guard working in our penal system. They're making a lot of money. They're living a successful life. Now, here's what the problem is. Oh my God, you're talking about prison. You're talking about that's not what I'm talking about. Let's substitute that for I don't know, teacher, educator in a classroom, or I don't know, somebody who's working a Dot worker who now moves up to a supervisory position. So you see what I mean? They didn't need to be demonized because they didn't want to take global education, to be successful. So
Well,
go ahead.
I was a car thief when I was younger.
Yeah.
Turned it into a multi-million-dollar business and wound up with my own TV show.
Right on.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying. But again, we emphasize too much on electronics in the schools.
Sure.
We're emphasizing on hiding stuff from parents in the schools. I remember my daughter, we were filming the show, and my daughter says, we were filming the show. My daughter comes home one day from school crying. Dad, they said you're a drug dealer. But I taught my kids from a very early age on, because back when I started repoing and bounty hunting, that was the secret society. And my daughter was judged for that until I showed up at the school one day with a film crew from National Geographic. And then everything changed. You're right, Eric. We need to get back to the basics, to the Constitution, to parents being able to rear their children as they deem fit without interference from the federal government, state government, or any other agency. Because here's the prime example. Indiana, there was a family here. The child wanted to be called, I forget how it went, Bobby, but her name was Betty. Long story short, CPS came in, the family court, and said that it was abuse and neglect, and took this kid because of a pronoun.
Because the parents didn't want them to do that?
They were transgender. Doesn't make a difference. The kid was transgender or not. I have nothing against that. But the family courts came in and took this child. CPS came in and took this child because the family wouldn't call him Betty and said it was abuse and neglect.
Yeah, hell no.
Google it. I swear to you.
Yeah, hell no.
The Supreme Court of the United States would not hear the case.
And it just happened not that long ago. Literally, a couple weeks ago.
Here, I'll give you a better one. The state of Indiana right now, there's 11,000 families that have quit their jobs because they have special needs children.
Yeah.
Well, come July 1st, that program's about to go away because there's $1 billion missing. Now, if Health and Human Services was a government agency, the state could step in and demand an audit. Well, guess what? The state of Indiana can't do nothing because they're a private entity. But yet they're using our Social Security money. How is that constitutional? I mean, I know it's a lot that we're throwing at you today, but this,
Larry,
and I'm not being funny when I say this.
Larry,
what?
I'm his sister-in-law. You think he's not used to this?
I'm not being funny when I say this because I got to get ready to jump off of here. I got to go to work.
Yeah.
But this is nothing but a modern day Jim Crow. This is modern day slavery, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds far-fetched. I'm far from crazy. My friends will tell you I'm crazy, but I'm far from crazy. And I'm definitely not stupid. I took the red pill, not the blue one. My eyes are open. I feel like I went through the Matrix. I'm serious, man. You cannot make this stuff up, man. And I appreciate you taking your time out on a Sunday to come on the show to hear and talk about the Constitution. And by the way, I'm a big Second Amendment guy.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
go.
a big Second Amendment guy.
Larry, I keep telling Eric he needs to run for president so we can go to the White House.
I pass on that, but I'll support you. But I don't want nothing to do with 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, man. You see what they did to Donald Trump, Obama, and everybody else that left that building.
Yeah, but they didn't have me as a sister-in-law.
That's right.
Eric, we'll all be in Gitmo.
No, we won't.
Guantanamo. Yeah, we'll be somewhere. No, I like being able to go to my refrigerator at 2:00 in the afternoon and get whatever I want out. I'm cool. I love you, Tip. That's like a sister to me. But boy, oh boy, you got a problem in family court? Call Tiffany.
They know.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it.
Listen, we're all out here fighting the same cause. I backed up a little bit because I've got some other stuff going on. My biggest thing now, as you can see in the background, I go to work, come home, and I build truck models.
Is that right?
Because I'm so burnt out from helping families that it's not funny.
Right.
I'm burnt. I got a family texting me right now about what's going on in South Carolina. The lawyer told his mother, I'm destroying your file. How is that constitutional? And had the file destroyed because there's so many lies in it.
Wow.
You cannot make this stuff up, man. I'm telling you. Do me a favor, humor me. Go talk to some people in your district that have involvement with DSS. I guarantee you your head will spin to see how much they trample on the Constitution.
I don't know if you saw Larry, what was that federal senator's name in Georgia, Orndorff or something like that?
Orndorff, yes.
If you really want to know what's going on in your district, you should do what he did. He let parents that dealt with foster care and CPS come in, but he started it because there were over 1,000 foster children missing in his state in Georgia. He wanted to know why CPS couldn't find those children, right? That's how it started. Now, him and a Tennessee person, senator, I think they're senators. They're either senators or Congress people. They're really diving deep into that system. But Larry's right. You can't make this stuff up.
Eric, I'll give you another one to write down to Google. There's over 100 children missing in the state of Indiana due to falsified drug tests. You can Google it. There's an article. And they're still using the same drug testing lab. And then tell the parents that you don't have a right to your drug test. Well, that's not what the guidelines say. The guidelines say if something comes up in a drug test, that the medical review officer is to call you. Okay? Now, Health and Human Services is saying that a hair follicle test, even though it's a false positive, and I'll give you an example. We all take our kids and our grandkids and go to D.C. Well, they're smoking weed from the White House to the Lincoln Memorial. It's in your hair. Now you come home and Karen calls up and says, hey, he's beating his kid. Now here they come. They want a drug test. They pull hair. Well, you just came back from D.C. Of course you're going to fail the test. That's a false positive. So I took it a step further and said to my buddies in law enforcement, I said, hey, we're in and out of houses with drugs every day before I retired from bounty hunting. Okay? Mm-hmm. What happens if one of us is involved in an officer-involved shooting? They pull hair, there goes your career. And it's a false positive, and you ain't never done meth, cocaine, or nothing. These are examples of how they're trampling on our constitutional rights.
I hear you. I do.
He's so overwhelmed right now. I have a tendency to do that, Eric, but you already know how I am. You've known me a very long time.
Eric, go home, pour yourself a double malt of Jack Daniels, and just relax.
He doesn't drink.
Oh, you don't drink? Neither do I.
Hey, Tiff, I do drink. Just don't drink Jack Daniels. That's all.
Oh, well, I've never seen him drink.
I don't smoke, although your sister sure does.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I don't smoke either. I eat edibles. No.
He does oil now, so
Yeah, whatever works.
it's all
So,
good. Hey, I don't mind. It's all good.
I do
Listen.
appreciate you taking your time to come on here, and I want to have you back. But
100%.
anytime that you want to confront these people, Eric, all you got to do is do a meeting like this.
Right on.
Because I call them out. They don't like me here. The judges don't like me. That's why I can't send somebody in, because they all know there's somebody's affiliated with me.
Yeah.
But and I'm not just telling you this because you're a senator. I think part of the reason I wanted you to come on is because when I called my lawyer and I told her I had a meeting with our delegate, when I had the meeting with our delegate, do you know what she said to me?
What's that?
She said, "This is my own backyard," and I had no clue what was going on.
Wow.
Listen, when Tiffany goes to have a meeting, Mitch calls me and says, "Hey, can you write a bond in Virginia?"
Now that's funny.
Whatever, Eric.
Eric, listen, it was good meeting you.
Hey,
Hopefully
man.
we can talk again soon. I'm going to be coming through your state here in a couple of weeks because I'm originally from New Jersey.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Well, you bring Tiffany up with you. I'll take you for a tour of the Senate, and if it's during the session, we'll bring you down on the floor. You can say hi to some folks.
I would love to.
It won't be
All
a
right.
problem.
All right.
So we're
Tiff,
going
I'll
to
call
end
you in a minute.
show. That's
Take
fine.
care.
So, Eric, I
See
want
you.
to thank you again.
Yep.
And I'm going to read the report that you sent to me. And
Yeah,
if you
definitely.
have any problems getting your bill passed, I will definitely come to Delaware and come on your floor. And I will tell everybody like it is. I
You got
have the proof to back me up.
it. I know you do. I can tell you that. So, all right, champ. Well, listen, man, call your pop and call Jennifer and make sure they're doing all right.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to call both now. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
See you now. Bye.
All right, bye.